This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. At Essen, a series of games was released from Stronghold Games called the Fast Forward series. Now this series is designed by Frieder & Fries, so you might know from Power Grid, Fabled Fruit, many other things. Well, this series is a new thing. Well, last year they came out with a game called Fabled Fruit, which started what was called the Fabled system, which I absolutely loved. Fabled Fruit is still probably my absolute favorite entry-level worker placement game that you can pretty much play with anybody, and it ramps up the complexity as the game goes on because the game comes with specific cards that come out in order, and the game becomes more complex and you learn new rules and the game changes and evolves, but it's not destructive. You could restart anytime you want. You could keep playing all the way through. It's a really cool system that I've been dying to see what else they're going to do with it, and this is the next step in that. So they've come out with 3 games in this series. We had Fear, Fortress, and Flee. So what I'm going to try to do with this video is, now I've already reviewed Fear and Fortress, but I wanted to give you an overview video as which one might be right for you. So I'm going to kind of go through each of them and talk to you about the type of game it is and hopefully try to point you as to which one might be the right one for you. So the first one was Fear. Now this is a light card game. It's for 2 to 5 players, and in this game I would say it's in between Uno and Red 7 from a complexity standpoint. Uno because you're either drawing a card or picking up a card or playing a card, and some cards will do certain things like change direction and do things like that. But don't go away yet, because as the game goes on, there's new rules that come out that change the rules, makes it a little bit more complex. There's special things that come out that have to happen, and now you have new things that you're shooting for and things like that. Now don't get me wrong, this is not a heavy game. It's a very light game, but for as light as it is, it's still very engaging because what you're trying to do is play a card down, and you're trying to make somebody else lose, because as cards go out, there's numbers, and when you essentially play that, you're going to announce the number, and if it gets over 15, you lose, and then whoever has the highest number in their hands wins. Now, if you want to see more about this, go see my non-spoiler review, but that's generally how it works. Now, this game is, I found this was actually my favorite out of all of them, because I just loved how it was simple, yet still fun. I felt like every time it was my turn, I was trying to just get the right cards in my hand, but like also, do I play, do I pass? So very light, very simple, but I love the series. I love how it went through, and as you get through the deck, new things happen. And I really like at the end of this game, it was the most flexible as all of them, is you can either reset it and start again, or you can completely just shuffle all the cards and just play once you know the game, and every game will be different, and I love that aspect of this. So if you're looking for a very light game that still has some fun with it, this was my favorite actually of the 3 because of its replayability and the system, and just how I've played it with gamers who liked it, said, yeah, this is good light fun. You'd play this as the first or the last game of the night. But I've also played it with like grandma and my mother-in-law who don't play games, and they loved it too. So very good versatility here. The next one was Fortress. Now this one is for 2 to 4 players, and in this game the system works pretty similarly, where there's numbered cards and you're going through them, and new cards will come out, new rules will come out, and you're trying to play cards of the same set. So maybe you have 3 1s or 3 2s or 3 5s, and you're trying to play sets secretly under a fortress and be able to take that fortress under your control, sometimes from somebody else, or sometimes if it's just in the middle, you just take it under your control, and you're trying to go and attack other people's fortresses and get them under control by having a bigger total value depending on the amount of cards you put in. And you're always placing cards of the same number, and if you don't beat it, then you actually get to see what's under there, so you have more information. But again, as you go through, new cards come out, new abilities come out, new special rules come out, more fortresses come out, all this sort of thing comes out, and it's really cool. I'd say it's a little heavier than Fear, but it's by no means a heavy game. This is still, I would consider, a light card game. Again, something that you might want to play first or last in the night. And both of these, Fear and Fortress, if you play through the whole system, from card 1 all the way through, you're playing probably close to 12 to 15 games, which took us, both of them, about an hour and 10 to an hour and 15 minutes to play through the whole entire system. You want to do that, you're fine. If you want to stop at any point in time, it came with a bag that you put them in there, and you can just start over later. Now this one, when you get to the end, you can continue to just bring the cards that were removed, put them in, and you kind of keep going. Unlike the first one, where you could literally just shuffle all the cards if everyone knows the game and just start. This one you have to sort of start where you left off. You can't just take everything and shuffle it, because you got to have there's a timer in the game, and certain cards have to be shuffled in a certain spot. So it's not quite as flexible as Fear, but still you could start at the beginning or start somewhere else. So it's still very flexible and still keeps that Fabled system. This is my second favorite one. I like it almost as much as Fear, very close. They're about the same, maybe a little nod to Fear just because I like that aspect of trying to just get feel like, the tension of every time it becomes my turn. The last of the three is Flee. Now, this is a very different one from the other two. The system feels different. Yes, it's the Fabled system. Yes, you go down from the numbered cards. You're going to be going through, and this is a cooperative game for 1 to 4 players. And this is a very difficult cooperative game, and it's all cards. So I would maybe compare it to, say, like The Grizzled, which is a very popular, very hard cooperative game that has cards. And this game is essentially you're going to be one of the characters. If there's less than 4 players, you'll be playing more than one character. There's all open information, so everyone is talking through what's going on, and cards will be coming out, and when it's your turn, you have to play one of the cards that's in front of you. If you have just one card, well, then that's the one you have to play. If you have multiple cards, you can choose. Then afterwards, you draw a card. Well, what's happening is one of you has a monster there, and you're trying, if it gets back to the person's turn who has the monster, then the game's over. Now, there's 3 major chapters in this game, so you'll start going through. If you lose within the first chapter, you have to reset the game and start completely over, which isn't bad because it's usually during the beginning of the game. But if you get past the first chapter, then you go through the second chapter, and if you fail any time after that, that time or later, then there's all the cards that you've already played end up going on top of the deck without being shuffled. And so you'll go through and you're trying, instead of like the other the other fast forward games where, certain cards get removed and you just keep going all the way through the deck. This one is different. This is more of like one large single game that you're trying to get through the deck. And so you'll be going through, you might lose, you put things on top, you have to play through the deck all the way again, try to get through it. And you're trying to get all the way through the deck, and when you end, well, you've either won or lost, and then you start all the way over again. This isn't like the other two where you could just keep playing or you could just pick up where you left off after you've finished the game. You can easily pick up where you left off at any time, put the cards on the bag where you've stopped and save it. But it's different. It feels very different from the other two from that regard. And I commend him for taking this, try to take this in a different direction, but this was my least favorite of the 3 for a couple of reasons. One is, I like the replayability of the first 2. This one doesn't really have as much because once you've played through this thing and you've won it, I'm not sure how many more times you'd want to play this, especially with the same group. Maybe with a different group because you're going to see the same cards again. They're going to come out in the same order, and it's not as interesting. I also didn't like that, once you get past the first chapter, if you lose, then all the cards that you played get flipped over without shuffling, and I felt like I was going through the same game again. Now, granted, when you do that, certain cards stay out that will help you, bonus cards and things like that. So it actually gets easier every time you lose. But I just didn't like going through all of the, when you go through the cards, going through it again. I felt like I was playing the same game over again, like Groundhog Day. I felt like it was similar to like when in Time Stories, you have to go through similar things that you've already done before. I felt like that with this, and it was the one I liked the least. But if you like very difficult co-op games that require a lot of coordination, then you might like this. But also be one that there is complete open information. So if you're the type of person that doesn't like co-op games that has open information because you're afraid someone might be quarterbacking, this may have, this has the opportunity to have that happen. I personally don't run into that issue, but I know some people do. But I hope I've given you a good sort of summary of all 3 games and which one might be right for you. Again, I've already reviewed Fear and Fortress. You can check those out for more details, but this was my first availability to tell you about Flee. So this has been the Game Boy Geek, helping you find and enjoy the next board game you'll love.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com.